Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Sam here. We will be starting the session in 5 minutes. So we're going to start the training session sharp at 12:30. So hi, good afternoon, everyone. So if you can hear me, you can type in the chat box. You can type 1 so that I can know you can hear me clearly. Okay, thanks. Thanks, everyone. Welcome to the training session. So basically this session, it will be an hour, or if let's say you have any questions or anything, we can extend a little bit so that everyone can opt for lunch later on. Okay, so this session I'll be sharing what is e-invoice, and how you're gonna do all those documentation, where you should do, and how Treezsoft can help you, and where to link up the Treezsoft, and how to use Treezsoft to manage your e-invoice. Okay. So let's wait another 3 minutes. Then we will start the session. Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Sam here. So I'll be walking through the session today with you. Welcome to Treezsoft E-Invoice Training Session. Okay. So I've seen everyone send me a 1 here. So thank you, everyone's response. So for this session, if you have any questions or you have anything, feel free to type in the chat box. So I will take a look. If the questions or there are things that I'm share later on in the session, I'll reply you all during the content I'm sharing. So just let me know. You can always stop me, give me a raise hand, or tell me that there are things that you want us to repeat. Do feel free and let me know. Okay, so let's start. So in today's session, I'll be sharing basically two sessions. So one will be what is e-invoice and what are the things that are covered. And second part, it will be the demonstration on how to link your portal, the MyTax portal, how to configure everything in Treezsoft, and subsequently how we're going to issue e-invoice and submission of e-invoice to LHDN. Okay, so let's start. Okay, so these are the first portion. What are the things, some are the basic knowledge about e-invoice and the timeline of the e-invoice. So basically, what is e-invoice? So we have heard a lot, e-invoice here and there. So basically, it's a representation of, a document down that the buyer and seller in between. So it's an essential document. So we all use invoice. We all use sales, cash sales, the post system and whatever. So those are invoice. So what's the major difference of e-invoice? So it's about the format. It's about the content that you're going to share and who you're going to share. So usually we share in between the buyer and seller. So now we have e-invoice that is going to be accepted by the LHDN through the MyTax portal, through API. So what are the formats? The formats is different. So everyone tell me, I'm using PDF, I'm using this as the digital invoice. So in fact, it's not. The file format that accepted by the e-invoice system is through XML or JSON. It's not a PDF, it's not a document, it's not an email, it's not a screenshot, but a document that acknowledged and received by our LHDN system, where they are through XML, JSON. Okay, so these are the main difference of e-invoice. And of course, the information that we are going to send in varies a lot. So of course, why we need e-invoice? Because you streamline your operations, you digitize your tax and reporting. Of course, increase efficiency, reduce a lot of manual effort with the right system. So if you are going to use MyTax, going to submit, that's going to increase a lot of your efforts. Okay, so who needs e-invoice? So I bet everyone in this session, it's concerning about e-invoice and, to know more about e-invoice. Okay, so basically who will be affecting? B2B, B2C, B2G. So these groups of
recording in progress.
Different kind of groups, it will be impacted in a different time frame. Where B2G to government, basically it will be the first phase. B2B, a lot of B2B actually in our second and then this coming third phase. And then we have subsequently on 2026. So basically everyone that needs to submit their tax reporting to do business, it has to be in this e-invoice framework. Okay, so these are all there are a lot of associations, ask me whether am I actually impacted by e-invoice? Yes, you do. Okay, so including association, including businesses, trust, partnership, REITs, all this are affected by e-invoice. And of course, there are things that exempted for e-invoice. So we all say like all this seems like everyone is impacted, but yes, there are some they are exempted for e-invoice, including like salary. So if you are receiving salary, you're not going to submit for e-invoice. Like pension funds, dividends, all these are exempted. Okay. So let's talk about this. Why, when there is, I heard a lot of people actually ask me, hey, if I don't enroll or I don't participate in e-invoice, I can't do any tax deductibles for my business, for myself. Is that true? Yes, in fact, yes. The main concept of e-invoice is about the proof of concept and the proof of expenses. So one man's income, it's another man's expense. So that's the basic why we need this invoice. Basically, this is an invoice, the billing system, the base concept of it. It's just that for this e-invoice, we need the proof of our income to the government, to the LHDN, and the proof of expenses. So if you do not have e-invoice, in fact, you can't verify this is your expenses. So LHDN will come and say, hey, I need your receipts with e-invoice submission. So that's the main purpose. And I would say the main thing that we need to take care of is when you selling things to your clients, you have to submit e-invoice for your invoice. And if you are buying something from your supplier, as their proof of their income, they will submit the e-invoice for themselves. So they will indicate your name as the buyer, and that's the whole cycle of e-invoice. Okay, any questions so far? So I'm going through all this basic concept quickly because we have a lot of things to share on the demo. Okay, so what are the types of e-invoice? So we have invoice, we have credit note, we have debit note, and refund note. So these are, I would say, obviously very familiar, but in different type of all these invoices, there are different usage. Okay, of course, like refund note is on a reduction on the e-invoice return of money, credit note on things that are not involved in money. So there are a lot of in e-invoice 4 types of them. Not too hard, just follow them that you will use it in your day-to-day businesses. And of course, we integrate all this into Treezsoft so that you don't need to worry about, I have to issue this and in a separate system. No, it's just as your usual, issue your issuance of your invoice with some setting up, it's all integrated. Okay. So I think I'll go for. So basically for our next upcoming or implementation of e-invoice, it will fall on 1st of July 2025, which I think everyone's here is preparing for this. And the last bit, it will be on it has been actually further rescheduled, delay to 2026 is for those business that has a revenue less than 500,000. For those above revenue, turnover 500,000 and above, it will fall into implementation time, 1st of July 2025. Okay. Okay, so how we should implement the e-invoice. So this is a table from LHDN. You can actually check this out in LHDN's official guide. So basically, just like what I said, in between the relationship of supplier, buyer, and LHDN, you can see the RBM cloud. So this is basically LHDN system. So issuance of invoice, debit note, credit note, refund note, in between you as a buyer. If let's say the seller is actually an overseas, you have to issue e-invoice. We call it self-bill, which I will share later on. And for supplier, if you are the supplier, for instance, you are selling things, then you have to issue e-invoice. So, okay, so this is how it looks like if let's say you have to do everything on your own. But we simplify the entire process. So it's just like usual. You have multiple branches, you have your HQ, you just bill as normal. And through Treezsoft, we will submit, help you to submission of an e-invoice straight to LHDN. You do not go through another system and say, hey, I need to submit this. So here's my invoice, help me to key in, or help me to submit all this. No, you just go through by Treezsoft and we will get everything submitted to LHDN. Okay, so there's the models. We talk about 2 things. One is a system from LHDN, which is MyTax system. You can log in straight away, it's free. But every single things you have to submit a lot of information. And for this API, where Treezsoft is actually in this, I would say a certified vendor for LHDN on this e-invoice submission. Okay. So why would you need an API like Treezsoft? Why would you need to use this instead of submit everything through MyTax? It's because the information requires for an e-invoice is so much more than what we used to do. We used to, invoices like name of the seller, name of the buyer, or even cash sales. Normally we just put cash. We don't even put the details of the buyer. Your TIN number, your buyer's TIN number, their address, contact number, MSIC code, and much more, SST number, everything. Okay, so these are all the 55 required fields, but of course there are some optional. You can see if I put it on optional, those are optionals. But for the first few, you can 17 till 36, it's all mandatory. and 38. 39. Yeah, so totally 39 of them is actually a mandatory thing that you have to fill in E-Invoice. Okay, imagine you build it in billing system or in Treezsoft, and you have to submit all of this information into MyTax system. Okay, that will be something that double work, triple work. Okay, so these are the things that we would like to reduce on everyone's day-to-day operations. Okay, so okay, let's go into the next part of it. So there are 3 types of e-invoice. Okay, we talk about document type, we have 4 types. We have invoice, we have credit note, debit note, and refund note. We have 3 types of e-invoice for different kind of situation. So the first one will be standard e-invoice. So it's quite standard. So everyone just, my client walk into my business, I buy something, and the client say, I want an e-invoice. So you just submit a standard e-invoice, like everything, like normal invoice, but with more things like TIN number and everything. So it's regular for business to business, where in between business, I want this e-invoice, you just submit within a month. So there's no specific time limit for now, because it was amended by LHDN and said there's no time limit, but it's recommended to process within 72 hours as soon as possible, in fact, or before end of the month plus 7 days. So basically it's next month plus 7 days. So that's the time frame allowing during this transitional period, it's allowed. But for the first version I found, it's actually stated 72 hours for the standard e-invoice. But for now, you can actually build the e-invoice till the end. But I would say in Treezsoft, it's so much easier that you can actually just submit directly. You don't need to wait until end of the month, and then you have to find out which one is a standard, which one I need to do consolidated e-invoice. Okay, the next up would be self-bill e-invoice. So this self-bill e-invoice, okay, it's mean by you bill your supplier. I mean, your supplier bill you normal invoice, but you have to bill them back. So there's a certain criteria and when to use it. Okay, so first of all, it's about payment to agents. Like commission, you are paying off commission to your agents. So agent as an individual, they will not issue an e-invoice to you. So that's why you need to build a self-bill e-invoice to help them to recognize their revenue, because you're paying them commission, that's their revenue. Okay, so that's when you need to do this self-bill e-invoice. And another scenario would be foreign sellers. So imagine you are importing things from China, from US, any other foreign countries, which all those sellers or company, they will not register for e-invoice, because since they are not doing business in Malaysia, so they have not necessarily to actually register e-invoice. So that's when you need to basically declare your expenses, because that's your business expense, where you buy things from overseas for your business, import things over. So that's when you need to do self-bill e-invoice, because you need to declare and say, this is my expense, this is my supplier that supply me on this. Okay, so that's when you need to use self-bill. Of course, coming back to when you need to submit, it's also recommended, 72 hours when you receive the invoice, but it's fine till the next month, 7th day of next month, which is, let's say you have this transaction today, 19th of March, and you can bill it on to perform this self-bill e-invoice by 7th of April, the latest. But I would say if you can submit it earlier. Okay. Who is allowed to do self-bill? So these are all the lists that provided by LHDN: interest payment, some acquisition of goods, payouts of betting, e-commerce transaction, profit distribution, purchases from foreign sellers, which I've shared just now, and payment to agents. So these are the 7 categories that allow for self-bill e-invoice. Okay, and let's go into the third one, which is consolidated e-invoice. This comes into very common, where those businesses that do not need, the client basically do not request you on E-invoice. So there are cases where there are some transactions people just don't need an e-invoice. They don't need to declare that this is an expense of my business. Okay, so that's when you don't need a standard e-invoice. Where as a supplier, as someone that is doing business, you will need to issue e-invoice to declare your revenue. So, but the client said, hey, I don't need, I just don't prefer, or the scenario just don't allow you to have time to do, all this information capture. So I quote an example. So you go to grocery shops, you buy groceries, and that's for your own use. You don't need to say, hey, this is my business expense. That's not just for myself. I just buy a drink, I just buy some food. Okay, so that's when you will not provide your name, your information, your email address, your phone number, or your TIN number to the grocery shop. So that, but the grocery shop, hey, I'm selling things. I need to declare my, basically I just need to say this is my revenue. I'm billing this person. But that's where you say I don't need. So that's where it comes into consolidated invoice. Okay, so you combine multiple individual receipts or invoices into single submission, where those single submission allowing you not to have all the details. Okay, so B2C, basically very common B2C, where a customer does not need any invoice. And same thing, 7th day of the next month. So for instance, the transaction starts today, have this transaction on 19th of March. That's you can perform your consolidated e-invoice at 7th of April. Okay, so that's the timeline. Okay, but there are some industry that has been prohibited to use consolidated e-invoice, which means all the transaction has to be in their, you have to obtain their, basically all their information, including TIN number, business registration number, or let's say it's an individual, you have to get their IC number. Okay, so which are the one? Automotive, where you're buying cars, buying motorcycles. So those are the industry that has already have real names when you do all the transactions. Okay, the next one, aviation, luxury goods, construction materials as well. License, betting and gaming, payments to dealers. So these are not allowed to have consolidated e-invoice only. So you can see these are the things that you only can do standard e-invoice. Okay. So there are 3 types of e-invoice. Okay. Any questions so far? Okay. Then I'll proceed to the next one. Thanks, Baylor. Okay. So can you avoid e-invoice? It's a question that I always get from our clients. Can I just don't do it? Okay, can I just don't? Yes, you can. It's the same thing. Where can you speed at highway? It's the same question. You can do it. Well, but it's just that comes with a price. Okay, so there are fines for each of the non-compliance. Basically, each of the non-compliance mean that each of the document that you're not submitting as an e-invoice. So a fine that is not less than 200 or not more than 20,000, or imprisonment not exceeding 6 months, or both for each of the non-compliance. So it's a heavy price to pay if you are not doing all this e-invoice. Okay, so this is just sharing on this. Okay, so let's go into our demo. Okay. Okay, can everyone see my screen? If you can see, give me a 2. Okay, thanks. Okay, so I think I'll start off to share on the information where you can get all these things. In fact, the things that I'm sharing later on, it is actually on our Treezsoft blog, where you can find all related information about the system, about tax, MyTax system, and of course on e-invoice. So you can find all this information on here, and there are times that you can see there's a related blocks at the right-hand side of Treezsoft screen. That's where you can read out as well. Okay. So for instance, like this one. Okay, so these are the things that I'm going through later on. Okay, so it's here. And I'm just sharing, we have Treezsoft Facebook page. So do remember to follow, like, and see first for our Treezsoft Cloud Accounting page, because that's where you get all the latest information. And of course, if let's say we have any events or anything, we will share it up at our Facebook page as well. Okay, let's come back to here. So first thing, I will just demonstrate an example of MyTax on how you're going to do e-invoice submission. Okay, so for our MyTax, we actually have a pre-production, which is a demo mode, and versus a live mode. So including our Treezsoft E-Invoice, we have two modes as well. So if you want to try out, we do have the demo version, and in the demo is actually nested in your original account where you can finish all the setup. And once you have turned it on live, that's where you can get everything live. And the integration in between the LHDN system and Treezsoft, it will be live as well. Okay, so the current system that I'm logging in, it's the MyTax system under pre-production, which is the demo mode. It's free, everyone can access it, including the live. Okay, so here's the MyTax portal where you can log in and wait just a moment. Okay, you can see this one over here. Okay, I will just show you an example of the document that I have submitted earlier on. So to let you to see what are the, how does the e-invoice in MyTax system looks like. So you can see all the invoice has their unique document number. Okay, UUID, it's over here. So this number you can actually refer when you talk about invoice number. So this is the invoice number in Treezsoft system. And this is the number from LHDN. So in Treezsoft, we have all this information as well. Submission ID, when you submitted, including the date, time, receive, who's the submitter, okay, who's the system that submit to, okay. So it's all recorded in the MyTax system. So including all this information, every single invoice you have to submit name of the seller. So the left-hand side is the seller, the right-hand side is the buyer. So both information has to be there to submit. Okay. Too fast. Which part do you want me to repeat? Uma? Okay, so I think I will just a little bit slower. Okay, so these are the information. So you can see the right-hand side, the left-hand side is the supplier, the right-hand side is the buyer. So this is how the e-invoice actually looks like in MyTax system. When you submitted through MyTax, or even you submit through Treezsoft, this is how it looks like. The information is here. Okay. So these are all the business activities of your business, like MSIC code, your address, your email. It's just all this. And line items. So this is the details of the item that you are selling. Okay, so basically for this, they're selling some item for repair and maintenance under the classification code, which I will share detail later on. Okay, and then all the amounts and everything. Okay, so this is how it looks like in MyTax system. Okay, so let's move on to the next one, where we will need to add Treezsoft as intermediary. Since we are talking about integration in between Treezsoft and LHDN, so here's the guide. Just zoom out a little bit more. Okay. So like I said just now, there is a pre-production, which is a demo mode, testing environment, you can say it. our production environment, which is the live. So when you have logged into the My Invoice menu, like the usual one that you submit for tax, just use your ID, your password to log in the taxes. There you go. You will just find this My Invoice is over here. So I just log. You can see it's over here. So once you have logged in, you just yeah. Once you have logged in, it's here. Okay, the My Invoice. So this is a pre-production. Okay, there is two links. So the live one, the production will be this, the usual one, and the pre-production will be this one. So the pre-production is for you to test out the demo. Okay, so you can find the links over at the blog. I will compile all the informations, I mean the blog links and everything after the webinar. We will share it out to your registered email so that you will receive all the guides. Okay, so after you log in, you can proceed to my invoice menu, which is just now I just go into. Accept the terms and conditions for the first time when you are registering. Then you can see and drop down and see your view tax profile, this taxpayer profile. This is already in LHDN because everyone, every year, every business, you submit tax. So that's where the information comes from. And this My Invoice portal, okay, you can just find it out. View taxpayer profile. And on the taxpayer profile, you can add intermediary. So once you have add intermediary, you can select and put in the information. So under, if let's say you are under testing environment, this is the TIN number, this is the BRN number that you place in. So I just show you, it's over here. My invoice. I go into log into my invoice portal. So when I drop down, you can see over here, view taxpayer profile. Okay, there you go. You see, these are all the details of my tax information. And then let's go into intermediary. So this is where you're going to set up your intermediary status. Go into edit. Okay, so I have submitted, in fact, I've submitted. That's why you can follow this guide. It's over here, add intermediary. Then you set the date range. It's over here. So you have to approve all this: view, submit, cancel, request, rejection, and notification. Because this is where we will receive, Treezsoft, we will receive all the things. Then you have successfully added us at the intermediary. So you will be able to see this. Okay, so this is how you tell LHDN Treezsoft is helping you to submit the e-invoice. Okay. Okay, let's go into Treezsoft. Okay, can you see can you all see clearly? Is it big enough? Okay. Thank you. So this is the dashboard. As usual, I think I'll just demo how it looks like for the standard e-invoice first, then I talk about the setup and everything. Okay, first of all, just like usual, when you do a sales invoice, you will record your client's information and everything. So it's the same thing. We do it at manage customer, new customer. So that's where you key in everything. So under e-invoice, when you activated the e-invoice mode, you will show this ID type. So the ID type is depending on your client. It's a passport, foreigner, army, or IC for individual, BRN for business. Okay, so that's where you key in. Then TIN number. Okay, that's where you put in your TIN number. Okay, I show you some with information. So this looks how it looks like with the detail. So you put in tax, which is the client's tax identification number, billing, everything. You can see there are more mandatory fields under e-invoice mode because we will need the information for e-invoice submission. Like I mentioned just now, there are around 40 mandatory fields, 55 including the optional ones, 55 details to be filled in for e-invoice. That's why during the configuration and the details of getting in, these are the information that you will need to fill in. And as for the TIN number and the gathering of the information, we are still working on the form where you can send out to your client or your supplier directly a link, basically for you. Imagine it's like a Google form with all the information. When they fill up, the information will flow back to your profile in this under customer profile, so that they can help you as the client or the supplier. They can fill it up themselves. So to reduce error, to reduce re-key in error over here. So the feature will be introduced later on. But for now, you can key in straight away over here. Okay, so this is how the customer screen looks like. Then we go into sales invoice. It's very simple. I would say it's very simple. Just go in. Like usual, you have all your customer information and you just need to bill the items. For instance, let's add another, let's go into, okay. Okay. Save. Okay. So a usual invoice, what you see, it's like this. I think everyone here quite familiar with it. On our usual Treezsoft invoice screen, there's not much difference. Looking like it's just a usual one. Oh, okay. For this, I will share later on, Liana. Thanks for the question. For sole proprietorship, depending on whether they have registered in LHDN, they will need to link up their sole proprietor business account with their personal. I can share you later on in the QA session. Thanks for the question. I will note down this. Okay, so this is the usual one. We haven't submitted yet. So what if the client wants a standard e-invoice? It's very simple. Just click on this. You can see there's an e-invoice button at the top right corner. Just click on it. So it will link you up to the e-invoice submit screen. Okay, this is a brand new screen in Treezsoft, a brand new module, which is e-invoice module. So if you want to go back to the document, just click on the left-hand side, click on the document. It will pull you back to the sales invoice. You'll come back. Okay, so this is the screen. So you have all the information. So it's very simple, just to click on submit. And there you go. That's how simple it is. Just one click, submit. You don't need to worry about, oh, I have to rekey into the MyTax system. No, this is how it looks like. Okay, and you can see the return status update, it's valid, and my invoice. And under the rule, as long as you've submitted this e-invoice, within 72 hours, you are able to update your invoice or cancel the e-invoice. But after 3 days, after 72 hours, you will need to do all the like CN, everything, okay? You can't cancel, you can't delete. So that's a 72 hours rule after your submission, okay? So let's move to MyTax. Let me verify whether the invoice has been submitted. Okay, so we submitted just now at 1:04 p.m. So this is the UUID. And boom, let's check the buyer, Jessie. Let's see here. Let's go back to the document. The buyer is Jessie, right? Yeah, to Jessie. And we sell them carpets and rim. Let's move into carpets and rim. Okay. And total 540 ringgit. Hey, 540 ringgit. 500. Let's go. See, 540. Okay, so in fact, your e-invoice has submitted straight away. Okay, so this is 540. Okay, so for our e-invoice, how do we indicate on this PDF when we send to the client? How do we get the client know this had already submitted for e-invoice? It's very simple. So how to differentiate in Treezsoft? Let's print another version. Just go in and see. So at the top right corner, it's over here. Can you see this? There's a barcode. Okay, so whoever is using laptop, you can pull up your phone, straight away scan. Scan on this QR and you will get to see and to access to the page of the e-invoice. Just now what you've seen in my MyTax, but if even I'm not logging in, this barcode will let you access to the e-invoice page and indicating that to let your client know this already submitted for e-invoice. If you so we have a question from Ayuni. What if the e-invoice is not at the top right corner? Do you mean the barcode is not at the top right corner? Or you mean the screen, is it? This one, is it? Okay, this you will need to enable the e-invoice in the system. I'll share it after this because I just want to share how you do submission in Treezsoft. Okay, so any other questions on submission of e-invoice? Okay, so you can cancel, you can update, you just click on here. So as long when this time frame pass after 3 days, all these buttons will gray out. All of this button will gray out. Okay. For cancel, just click on cancel. It will submit to LHDN. For update, it's very simple. Go to the document. And then let's say, okay, this price should be 70. Okay, I want to update. Sure, okay, updated. I click on save. Okay, so once you have saved, and then go to the e-invoice, and then click on the update invoice. Then you will see the changes reflect at LHDN portal as well. Code item, you mean the classification code, is it? Shuhaida? Yes. It's in the next part. I just want to show you how we do a usual submission. Okay, since everyone's asking, let's go into the setup. So it's the same thing. You can find the onboarding and configuration on our Treezsoft blog. So if let's say you can't remember all the things that I mentioned just like right now, you can go ahead, go to this blog page. I will also compile, on the intermediary blog and this together in the email so that you can access. So first of all, you will need an user ID that is admin, that has admin right to enable all this. Okay, so first thing off is the integration part. So we go into here, it's under company. You can log into your Treezsoft account right now. As long as you have admin ID, administrator access, you will be able to access to it. So first off, company, integration. And there you can see this. So the integration and apps, e-invoice, turn it on, and then you will see this setting logo. So once you have clicked into it, here's your setup for everything about e-invoice. For Uma, do we need to issue credit note or debit note? Do you mean the update of the e-invoice? If it's within 72 hours, you do not need to. But if the submission of the e-invoice already surpassed 72 hours, you will need to perform credit note or debit note. Okay. Okay, so this is the setting page, the setup page. So I'll go through one by one so you can see all the steps is over here. It's all guided, okay? And you can refer to the guides. Of course, if you have any questions or anything, you can also feel free to text us in our Treezsoft support WhatsApp group chat that everyone should have. If you don't have, let us know if your company do not have a dedicated company WhatsApp group chat with our team and your team. Let us know. We will set up for you and you can drop your questions over there. Okay, so for setup, first thing first is your company profile. So all the information here is actually gotten from company profile. So you can log on to your company profile, take a look. As long as you have turned it on, your basically it's all here lah, basically. Under e-invoice mode, there is things like this. Same goes to your customer profile page. You will have your BRN, your NRIC, your passport, everything. So basically, as a company, you have to log in, place in your BRN number, the same registration number in SSM. And of course, when you register your tax, that's be the same. Your major MSIC code for your company. If you do not have your MSIC code, you can actually search from it's over here. So you can actually refer to classification code, country code, currency code, e-invoice type, everything is here. So I will include this link as well, so you can find out what is your MSIC code. And your business activity description. It shall follow the MSIC code. The major MSIC code should have, every single MSIC code should have a description where you need to put in these two. Okay, but of course, I know there's a lot of business, they're doing a lot of other businesses as well. So there are things that you can actually configure in the e-invoice and say, here's supplementary business items or services that you do under different activity description. Okay, so this is the company profile. Basically, you just need to do all this, update your information, then go into the integration setting. It's over here. So all this information is getting off from the company profile and whether your business allowed to have consolidated e-invoice or not. Like I said, not all business allow consolidated. If you are in aviation, you are in automotive industry. When you say not allowed, then straight away, we will turn off the consolidated e-invoice for the entire account. Okay, but for normal, I would say most of the business, you are allowed to use consolidated e-invoice. Okay, so for this, depending on how you're going to submit your e-invoice, we can group by branch or group by your location as per the setup in Treezsoft. If let's say you do not need to submit into different branch or different location, you can just stick on no grouping. Okay, so then when you start your e-invoice, okay, so you just put in your information. Okay, so this is where just now I mentioned the demo mode, the testing mode versus the production, which is the live. Okay, so when starting off, when you do all the setup and configuration, you can select this pre-production, which is a trial mode, or you can call it a demo, a testing environment for you to play it out. So under this mode, it will link to LHDN's pre-production, the demo site as well. So there's no actual impact on your daily, day-to-day information or day-to-day processes. There's no impact on it until you turn it on to production. Once you have saved to production, which is the live mode, you can't reverse back to pre-production. So this one, take note, because once you've turned live, it's live. Okay, straight away, it means that you have to submit your e-invoice and get your supplier to give you e-invoice as well. Okay, so this is, okay, so basically, when you're testing off, use this trial mode, okay? And if you have to remember to add us an intermediary, which is just now I've shared. So you can refer to the guideline, which is this, the blog, we'll link it up. So, which is just now we have went through, okay? So after you have linked everything, so that LHDN will know, okay, for this company or this person, you are using Treezsoft to submit your e-invoice, okay? So this is the first step. Okay, the next step. So the system will guide you through every single step. Okay, so the second step would be classification. So this is where you can classify every single thing. just a moment. Let me see here. Okay. I think I put a little bit smaller. It's a bit big. Okay. So you can see here, each of the product or each of the accounts that you're doing, it could be different classification. Okay. So basically you can add new on the classification code here. So we have linked up all the classification code from LHDN, whatever available. So you can link up the stock items or particular account that you know which are them. So for instance, like let's say medical expenses, repair, maintenance, and which are the self-built one. Okay. Right, like I mentioned just now, what are the things that are self-built? So all the classification is over here. So you can link up the classification, you can add a new code. And if an item or account is, then let's say I choose one first. Let's say. Okay, rental of motor vehicle, save. Okay, and then you can link this. You can link your item. Let's say a rental of motor vehicle. So what are the stock or stock group is actually involved in this classification code? Okay, any questions so far? Okay, so you can link up all this. I show you the example of linking account. Okay, link account with this code. So basically, all your accounts, COA will be linked, showing up over here. So you can assign them or remove the classification based on the business that you serve, based on, let's say you're an accountant, you're the clients as doing, or as a individual, your individual business. So you should know which one is related to your business or the services that you are providing. So this is on the classification portion. So the next up setting that you will need to do is payment mode. Okay, so this is also required by LHDN when you submit the e-invoice. What are the method of paying of this transaction? So what we do is we will actually map, these are the codes provided by LHDN, but we will match with whatever that you have created in the system. Like for instance, those payment related, bank, everything, we will auto link them. Okay, but of course do check, because there are times that where your naming convention, naming is different, it will impact the auto match function. So as long you're using the default one, no issue. It's all over here. Okay, so next up would be document type. Okay, this is also already pre-configured by our Treezsoft team member, so you do not need to do. Okay, so these are the document type that map to the e-invoice type in LHDN. So 01 is invoice, where should be mapping to cash sales invoice. Number 2, credit note, which is sales return, and credit note in Treezsoft. So these are the documents. The left hand side is all the document type in Treezsoft. The right hand side is the document type from LHDN. So there are codes about it. So you can actually refer. We already pre-configure about all this. So you just need to have a look. Okay. So okay, if let's say you are talking about sorry, okay, thanks question from Amy. Just to confirm, we need to classify sales related products and services as well as the expenses account. Okay, let's move back to classification just a moment. In fact, there is for instance like reimbursement and disbursement. So see, you have to classify as well. Okay, so you can actually classify all this. Okay, next up would be tax if you have SST, so we as long you enable the SST mode in Treezsoft, all this is pre-configured. So you do not need to worry about sales tax, worry about service tax. Because all of the codes that included in Treezsoft, it's already we mapped it with the code with LHDN. Okay, so you just need to read through unless you have any special code that you have created in Treezsoft that you will need to link up. Let us know. Okay. Okay, next up, no consolidation term. Okay, this is something that let me check. We just need to mute the yeah. And okay, yeah, let's continue. Next up, no consolidation item. So for instance, like cars, motors, or aviation, luxury goods and everything. So those are the things that has to be basically no consolidation. You can't do consolidation. So what we do is that is a setup screen for you to identify the items or particular services that you have to exclude from from consolidated e-invoice. So basically the item or basically anything that has this item in, the system will exclude. So you can either set by stock item or you can either set by account. You just need to identify which account, like the entire account transactions inside has to be no consolidation. You have to submit standard e-invoice. So just list it down here. You just need to add. So you can just basically go through the screen and everything and say, okay, this one is a motor vehicle, I have to include it. A scooter, I have to, basically it's a motor, I have to add in. So these items that I've added in, when you submit a consolidation, Treezsoft will just help you to exclude them. This actually prevents a lot of error, especially on submission on e-invoice, because those are the items that are not allowed to submit as consolidation. So you can exclude straight away, even you submit the same invoice as multiple stocks. You're selling different things, different services, but just that particular thing, you can actually exclude from the consolidation and then you can submit through a standard e-invoice. Okay, so this is another one. Let's add an account. For instance, let's go to, I just put one example. So for instance, like motor, not this. Wait. Motor, my motor. Oh, yeah, my motor. This is something that I cannot submit. Okay. For instance, just an example. Okay. So this is no consolidation item. Next up, the information that required by LHDN under the 55 item, the 55 information is UOM. Okay, so in Treezsoft, we have a set of default UOM. Of course, if let's say you have a lot of custom UOM, you will need to map to LHDN's code. Okay, so for instance, like gram in LHDN is GRM, kilogram KGM. So these are the things we can auto match, but you have to go into have look whether it's right or wrong. Okay, because different business needs different type of UOM, and you can select from here. So all of this list you can see here is a list from LHDN for all the units UOM. Okay, so the left-hand side, same thing. The left-hand side is what the record in Treezsoft. The map to, which is the right-hand side, is the information that LHDN, the list under LHDN, you have to map it to it. So when you do the submission of this e-invoice, everything has been configured. Okay, same thing, you can do auto matching. The auto matching is actually based on your UON name or your symbol. Then we will try to map to the nearest of the LHDN provides. Okay, clear? Next up, this is an information for you, which just now I said the MSIC code, whatever. Just click on here. So basically it serves as a reference. So this is the MSIC code. So you can find your business, which is related to, the most related to, it's over here. So you can check out the other infos, which just now I've mentioned. I also dropped the screenshot for you all so that you all know what is the information that you have to look for, like the currency codes, the country codes they're using. Okay, all the information we have compiled over here. Lastly, just now we have gone through the adding the intermediary and everything. So we have to test whether is this your configuration and everything, is it completed or is it done? So let's start. So we will validate whether your TIN is correct. We will get the information from LHDN. Then we submit a dummy e-invoice under the demo mode, and then we test it out whether is your integration successfully with LHDN. So, and then we perform another cancel. So to complete the entire cycle, whether the test is completed, the integration is integrated successfully. So when you see this, congratulations, you actually completed your e-invoice configuration. And then that's where just now you can start off to do your sales invoice. Okay, so once you have turned on everything, you save, you will see the e-invoice button at the top right corner. And of course, same goes to your supplier invoice. It will show at the top right corner as well. Okay, so example, so you can see here, and you can see here. So it will state this transaction is a part of the consolidated e-invoice. Okay, consolidated e-invoice is over here. Lastly, consolidated e-invoice is over here. So whatever consolidated e-invoice that you haven't, I mean the e-invoice meant to be, haven't submitted, like the invoice is purely just normal invoice, it will show up over here. And then you can select them and click on submit. Okay, so currently I do not have any e-invoice that is invoice that is not submitted. Let's create one as an example. Then I will run that you have a look. If there's error, the system will also actually tell you what are the information lack of for submission. Okay. So let's go to, okay. As long as you can run, I want to process March. Or okay, just click on the run. So straight away, you will see this is not a self-bill, it's a normal invoice. Sorry, just a moment. And process, run. Okay, so if the item is in the no consolidation list, you will see this list of them that you have to submit e-invoice separately. Like I said just now, when we set up as no consolidation, where my item just now, this insurance claim 555 amount, it's under disallowed transactions. Here is the list that you have to submit one by normal e-invoice. Okay, so this is consolidated e-invoice. And if you want to check on the submission log when you have submitted, like this one is today, we have submitted 3 e-invoice. Let's say I want to check like last 3 months, you can also check and who from the users who actually submitted. Okay, and inquiry, this inquiry screen basically is for you to check basically all, whether it's been cancelled or it's invalid, and you want to check the information, you can check over here. You can see it's consolidated e-invoice, okay, submission. And of course, if you want to check the audit trail, as comparison, the submission ID, the UUID, when you find it on my portal, you want to find it, you can search over here under UUID and or submission UID. So these are the unique ID from LHDN. Okay, so I think that sums up the things that I want to share. But I think let's all move back to how to do self-bill. Okay, self-bill is actually under supplier. Okay, payload, okay. Self-bill invoice is actually under here. So imagine you have a vendor that is not registered in Malaysia. So you have to do self-bill. Okay. Let's move to this. Just an example. Save. Okay. So under this client, you have to enable manage supplier. And then we go to Mr. Yap. And you have to state BRN. Or if let's say you can just state the overseas BRN. And then put in their TIN number. TikTok shop. Okay, just a moment. I think I've answered this first. Okay, and then you can click on here, self-bill invoice. Okay. Okay, for this part on the self-bill, let's welcome Mr. Leong. He will go through on the this self-bill e-invoice. Off to you, Mr. Leong. Are you there?
Okay. Hi everyone, I'm Leong here. Yeah. Maybe this one for the self-bill, I will demo for you. Okay, just a moment. Okay, let me share the screen. Okay, is everyone able to see my screen? If yes, then maybe you can give me a 5. Sorry, a moment, yeah. Okay. Just to confirm, are you seeing the Treezsoft screen right now? Are you able to see the Treezsoft screen right now?
Yes, I can see.
Okay, so I'm moving right now, so able to see, right? Okay, now we are entering the supply invoice screen. So for the self-bill, right, normally it's involved like if you've done a purchase from a foreign supplier, or maybe you are making a commission to your agent. So we are using currently, okay, let's use overseas supplier over here. So for overseas supplier, the first thing is important thing is the country, has to mention the country as a non-Malaysia. So for example, I put Angola, and then enter the invoice number, okay, the date, other information, and then tick on this self-bill invoice. And after that, select the item that you purchase. Okay, save it. So once you save it, then the e-invoice button will appear over here. And then just as per normal, click on it, and then you can do the submission. Okay, so if system will do some validations, and then if there's information not enough, then system will inform you. For example, this one, it require the contact number and also the address city. Okay, so you can just back on the document and then provide the city. I just recode first. Okay. Contact number. Okay, after that, then we try to submit again. Okay, so you can see the status submitted and then status update is also submitted. So when you see the status is submitted, right, that means this supplier invoice has been submitted to custom, but they haven't returned a valid status yet. So you can wait for a few minutes and then come back again and see. It's still submitted. So this one, sometimes the connection issue or maybe the custom side, they do the validation. So just wait for it and then maybe after a few minutes and then come back again until the status become valid. Then the process will be done. Okay. So Sam, I will let you to continue.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Leong. Okay, let's go back to our sharing just now. Okay. Can you see my screen now, everyone? I think just now when we talk about the consolidated e-invoice, I think I need to add up something. Because just now this item, one of the item was excluded. Okay, so if this is the latest one. Okay, can see here. So let's add in another one, which is not excluded. And then we can go to e-invoice consolidated, and then you run again. So you will generate the draft. So just now there's two items in the invoice where one is an excluded from no consolidation item. And then there's another one, which is a car wash. Then you will see they will separate out. Okay. So that's where we can protect our submission on the e-invoice on no consolidated item versus allowing consolidated e-invoice. But if you want a clearer or easier for you all to track, another way is just to split them into two different invoice. Okay. Yeah. So the next up would be, I think, a question that I wanted to answer just now is regarding on the sole proprietorship. Okay. So that's another one. Okay. Let's go to our blog. I will drop the link later on as well. It's over here. So for the sole proprietor, regardless whether they are submitting their tax, they only have one tax number, regardless how many sole proprietorships they have. In fact, so what you need to do is to link the main sole proprietorship with the NRIC. So here's the guideline. So same thing, log into the client's or the sole proprietor's own MyTax, navigate to the business owner registration portion, it's over here, and navigation to the role application. then you have to submit, because the sole proprietorship, basically, there is no business registration number. It's only using the NRIC. But when you're doing the e-invoice, that's where you need to link up your sole proprietor, the business, the SSM number. Basically, you need to submit your team, the supporting document, everything as a business owner instead of personal. So that's where you can link up the business for sole proprietorship. Okay. Did I answer your questions on the sole proprietorship? Okay, so this is the information, and lastly, we will have an offline event coming soon, an offline training course with partnering with our, just a moment, with our actually a partner where specializes on workshop training. So if you have your clients that is on the workshop from digitalization transformation, they'll feel free, welcome to register this event. The event is actually on Nilai, where this is the EMG Skill Tax CEO's office. There is a training center. They talk about a lot on workshop transformation, and of course, we do have dedicated module on workshop, billing side for digitalization transformation and workshop. Okay. And then okay, so we have some other questions. Just a moment. Let me have a look. Okay. So sundry purchases using petty cash, all the receipts must be e-invoice receipts. Okay, depends. If let's say this purchase is for your business, you can actually get the e-invoice from, let's say for 99 speed mart and everything, there will be an you have to submit it one by one. Okay, so as long you want to submit it as tax deductibles, yes, you have to get them in e-invoice. Okay, for now, I think there is a grace period, but sooner or later, it should be that all the receipts that you buy for all the sundry purchases. And as for the reimbursement, I will share, just a moment, I can share you on the reimbursement and disbursement. It's also available on our Treezsoft blog. Yeah, it's over here. So if let's say the sundry purchases is purchased by your staff, it's not by the company, advisable to use your company name directly. But if unable to provide at that time, the staff using their own name to purchase, you can actually come here to read about reimbursement and disbursement. So there are two types. So one is they made on behalf of the buyer, or there's another one, a payment first, and then I claim back. So there are two different. So what is disbursement and what is reimbursement? You can come over here and have a look. Okay, comparison and assign the classification code. It's over here. Okay, next question. Okay, from Sino, doing gaming app, pop-up come from different customer. Okay, so you say it's prohibited. Okay, for this pop-up, Mr. Leong, do you have any information on this?
Sorry, which one?
From Sino, it's about the company is doing a gaming app. The top up, basically they top up into the wallet lah, I think so. Come out from different customers. So just now I saw it is prohibited consolidated e-invoice. Now how should I do this?
Okay, so you know why what make you think that this one cannot do the consolidated e-invoice? Is it because just now you saw the gaming betting industry is not allowed to do the consolidate?
The gaming here, I think, is on the more on
Different.
the the
Yeah,
game.
different thing.
Different.
Yeah. So for your case, right, it's still allowed to do the consolidated invoice because the industry actually is different. Okay.
Okay, as for the upcoming event, you can register over here. But this is a paid event because lunch is included. It's an offline 8 hours training session. It's over here, so you can register over here. The cost fee is 168 ringgit for this session. So they will teach on transformation and workshop and for e-invoice. Okay. Yeah. Thanks. I think I will say thank you very much for everyone for joining this session. As usual, if you have any questions, feel free to drop us a message at WhatsApp group chat, and I'll see you soon in the future because we will have ongoing more training sessions because upcoming we will have our Q-Post training session, which I foresee. And for this session, we might have a Mandarin version as well. So stay tuned to the inbox or email inbox, our Facebook page, and of course on our official blog and channels and everything. So thank you very much everyone for supporting this event today. I'll see you soon and have a good day. Thank you.